Welcome to the Friends of NPACE podcast. My name is Josh Plotkin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Nurse Practitioner Associates for Continuing Education, better known as NPACE. NPACE is a nonprofit continuing education organization founded in 1980 by a group of nurse practitioners looking to help advance the profession and bring NPs from across the country together for education and connection. NPACE is an ANCC accredited provider of continuing education, offering in-person CE conferences and online CE programs for nurse practitioners. We welcome you to visit npace.org for more information on everything NPACE. We thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Friends of NPACE podcast. We're excited that you've chosen to tune into our conversation today about pediatric health and the Boys and Girls Club. Before we introduce our guests, we want to remind our audience, wherever you may get your podcast, to please subscribe, rate, and leave comments and reviews. The Friends of NPACE podcast can be found on the NPACE Learning Center at learn.npace.org, on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I'm so excited to have Monica Lombardo with us today. She's the Vice President and Chief Advancement Officer of the Boys and Girls Club Metro South in Massachusetts. Monica empowers youth development professionals to change young lives by ensuring that they have the resources needed to provide high-quality programs and opportunities for self-discovery. As an experienced and passionate advancement professional, her attention to detail, knack for improving processes, creativity, and ability to identify and these opportunities have contributed to the significant and sustained growth of special events, annual campaigns, grant support, corporate and community partnerships, and brand equity at the Boys and Girls Club of Metro South. In 2020, she was named as the Boys and Girls Club of America Northeast Region Outstanding Resource Development Professional. Each year, the Regional Outstanding Resource Development Professional Award honors an outstanding fundraising professional from each of the 5 regions across the country whose dedication, leadership, ingenuity, and high ethical standards build and strengthen a culture of philanthropy in their clubs and communities. Boys and Girls Club of America Northeast Region stretches from Maine to Maryland and includes more than 1,000 independent Boys and Girls Club organizations. Monica's areas of interest and experience include planning and implementing high-level strategic projects, partnership development, event planning and production, community outreach, and stakeholder engagement, grant writing and foundation relations, relationship fundraising, marketing and communications, and nonprofit consulting. I am beyond thrilled to have the wonderful Monica Lombardo with us today from the Boys and Girls Club of Metro South. Monica, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Josh. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
It's a pleasure to be with you as well. We've had the pleasure of knowing each other for a little bit of time now and have been able to collaborate on a few things with NPACE and the Boys and Girls Club. We had a great opportunity to work together at our Cape Cod conference this past June and had a great opportunity to expose our nurse practitioner audience to the Boys and Girls Club, and really wanted to follow up on that experience today and talk and hopefully let folks who weren't at that conference with us in June a little bit more about the Boys and Girls Club and what you all do and sort of the intersection between the Boys and Girls Club and pediatric health, both from a mental health standpoint and sort of nutrition and wellness standpoint. So really looking forward to our conversation. And I'd love to start with, I think most people have heard of the Boys and Girls Club, but most people may not know all the different things that you do and sort of all of the different offerings that you have. So can you give us a little bit of a high-level overview of the Boys and Girls Club and sort of all the different things that you have going on?
Sure, and that's a great point. I think, the great thing about Boys and Girls Clubs is it does have a lot of recognition on a national level. I think pretty much anyone can think about a Boys and Girls Club and, make some inferences about what kinds of things go on. Obviously, we serve youth. We are traditionally an after-school program, but also service youth before school, on school vacations, summertime, pretty much anytime schools are out, the clubs are in, we like to say. And honestly, even during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, our clubhouses were open all day for kids when schools were in virtual operation mode. So really just a wraparound support and positive place where kids can come At Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro South specifically, we serve youth ages 5 to 18. So a long kind of continuum of care for our kids. They can, be starting with us sometimes before they even start kindergarten, and then are with us as club members, through high school graduation. A lot of our club members who do graduate come back and work with us as summer camp counselors, as after school youth development professionals while they're in college themselves. And so really trying to make sure that we're sort of that second family and that second layer of resources that can support, in often cases, working parents, but a lot of times we, have single parents, and just to kind of, get it done, keep a roof over their heads, keep food on the table, need some support in doing that. And so we are thinking about everything that kids need to be successful and have a chance at a great future. For us, that starts with academic success. So for our younger kids, really making sure that that foundational early education kind of support is there. As our kids get older, it's more about connecting them to college access and those opportunities. The next bucket for us is sort of healthy lifestyles, where I think a lot of the natural partnership with NPACE comes into play. For us, that's everything from, keeping kids physically fit and keeping them active and moving, to supporting with nutritional assistance. So we provide hot, healthy meals every night to all of our club members. In the summertime, we're providing breakfast, lunch, and dinners, totaling about 100,000 meals a year just to our own club members in Brockton and Taunton. And then supplementing that, to your point, with mental health and all those sort of social, emotional wellness pieces that are especially difficult, I think, to access when you do have less financial resources, which a lot of our kids do. And sort of the third bucket in our formula for impact is a real intentional focus on character and leadership development in those. So that's giving kids, the tools to go and make a difference in the ways that they can at whatever age that they are now, but also really trying to instill in them a passion for making an impact in their community, whether that's through their chosen profession that they'll go into. We have a lot of kids really interested in healthcare. And so that's been great to connect them with some resources from NPACE for that reason. But really just trying to be whatever it is that kids need to not just get through today and to, kind of survive where they're at today, but to thrive and really build those resources and those skills and those dreams for the future.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive and sort of all around well-rounded program. I think people think of the Boys and Girls Club and they're like, oh, it's a fantastic after school sort of program.
Yeah, come play basketball in the gym, and there's probably a ping pong table, and like we have those things, we do. They're part of it. But it's so much more than that.
Yeah, and you just touched on all that, and it's amazing that at this stage of the game, how the club has positioned themselves to be able to do that, and that it's not just the after school, but the wellness, nutrition, and sort of the academic and personal success, which I want to dive into a little bit more. One of the coolest things that I learned about when you were all with us in Cape Cod is sort of your sustainable food growing opportunities and some of the things that you do there, and really nutrition. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that program is and what the intersection of the Boys and Girls Club and that, and sort of how kids get the most out of learning about nutrition and wellness and all of that.
Yeah, no, I am so proud of our Freight Farms initiative, and I think it is probably the program that we have where all of our kind of values and goals for our kids really coalesce. So long story short, the Freight Farm for us is it's a hydroponic container garden. Realistically, we're about to bring our third one online, and so what this allows us to do is to grow organic produce, 365, really cost effectively, to be able to utilize both in our in-house Kids Cafe daily meals program, but also to share it more broadly with a network of about a dozen food pantries and other hunger relief agencies throughout sort of the Metro South region here. And so it's, one prong of it is that it's providing that healthy food. And I think we know that nutritional assistance is sort of the bedrock upon which all of our other programs are successful. It's great to have college access programs. It's great to have character and leadership programs. But when you're 8 and you don't know what you're eating for dinner, it's really hard to have those aspirational goals and think about a plan for tomorrow when you're not really sure how you're going to make it through the day. So we know and have recognized for a long time that if we want all of our other programs to have the impact we intend them to, we need to make sure those basic needs are met, right? Starting with nutrition. We also know that having healthy eating habits, kids feel better, they get sick less often, you miss less school. That all contributes to academic success and those long-term outcomes as well. And so trying to provide, the food to physically be able to eat well, because we know how expensive it is and it can be a luxury to eat healthily. But also to make sure that there's an education component too, where our kids are really understanding why certain foods are better for you than others, right? And why investing in, having something that's more healthy for you might be a little bit more expensive, that when you have the opportunity to do that, you're really investing in some other things that are going to save you money, right? Hopefully you're going to need less trips to the doctor's office. You're going to need, less supports and things down the road. And we also know there's a big correlation with mental health too, with, having that overall physical wellness and taking care of yourself. So really looking at that holistically and trying to empower our kids to recognize that they do, like some things just happen to you, right? And you just got to roll with the punches. But there are things that even as an 8-year-old, you have power to make some choices, especially in school, right? Whether you're going to pick that cookie or you're going to go to the salad bar.
Yeah, I was going to say it's come a long way since my after school programs, where the cookies and the high sugar juices and those sort of things were probably what was being grabbed at first. So the transition, and I think over the probably the last 10 or 15 years, the mindfulness when it comes to that, and being able to educate kids at that stage of their lives, and sort of understanding that, does an 8-year-old want a salad? Maybe, maybe not. But
they want the cucumbers. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. So
the things that they gravitate towards, right? So it's like a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. To like, I'll eat the lettuce if I can have a cup of cucumbers on top of it. So
right, yeah, no, it's and I think making healthy food fun for kids as well. It probably goes a long way in terms of them sort of being accepting to that and understanding that there are times for cookies and cake and those sorts of things.
There's
and I'm sure
always a place for that. But I really think, again, the educational component of it too is because we have the freight farms on site, the kids get to grow their own food, right? So I remember even as a kid, my brother would only eat food if we told him it came from my grandfather's garden. So even in January, when there was no way on earth in New England that was the case, he'd eat it if he thought that our grandfather grew it. And our kids, I think, take a lot of pride in, like, I grew this lettuce, I'll eat it. And I think that's been a part of it, is really immersing them in it.
That's awesome. Really a 360 experience for them in terms of from the time it gets planted through the time that they consume it. So that's awesome. I think one of the other things I wanted to touch about on the Boys and Girls Club and sort of the environment that it is that it's such a large scale operation, and you have so many people from so many different backgrounds. You sort of touched on that at the beginning. And bringing folks together and sort of that environment for kids to probably meet people that they may not meet in other settings. You talked about some of the athletic and sports components of the club, and this is my personal opinion, but I do feel that competition and opportunities to engage in team sports bring an element to kids' lives that if you don't participate in that, I feel like some kids may miss out. So can you talk a little bit about some of those things that go on at the Boys and Girls Club and sort of the competitive sports, bringing different people together environment? I know you have some relationships with some teams as well in the local area.
We do. No, it's a great point. I mean, I think one of the biggest things you realize when you grow up and you get a job is there's a reason they made you do group projects in school. And that's because, work's just one giant group project, and it is about being a teammate, in your relationships at home and your relationships at work. And so I think that we do, I think after school programs, or kids today are a little bit different, right? They need different things. They have different expectations of, what they should experience in the world. And so when we've really tried to think about, kids post COVID and what do they most need, what Boys and Girls Clubs are uniquely positioned to do as that brick and mortar place, right? As that physical place to convene, is there are some things that you really should be leaning into that you just can't do on a computer screen. You just can't do even, the Oculus headsets. It's not the same thing. And so having those organized, whether it's like a club sport, or we have a couple of travel teams. So we've got an AAU basketball team out of Brockton. We have a very competitive floor hockey league at our Taunton clubhouse, which I had no idea what floor hockey was prior to getting involved with the Taunton club, but it is a multi-generational thing that just is so, it's about being physically active, but it is about, I made a commitment to come to practices. I made a commitment to, try my best. I want to work at something and learn that by practicing a skill over and over again to get better at that. And if that applies in sports, can't that apply in my math homework? Can't that apply in my public speaking ability or my ability to make friends, right? And it's being able to kind of create those opportunities where kids get to build some resilience and some grit and like figure out where else they're going to be able to lean on that at other times in their life, right? And so we are very fortunate. We've had a great partnership with the Patriots for a long time, probably referencing, and I hate to say we're not looking so great right now, but Mac Jones has been a phenomenal partner for our clubs. He's been out, many times to just spend time with the kids and be that role model, right? Somebody thinks about you. And I think especially for organizations outside of Boston, that doesn't happen as much. That's pretty cool for a kid from Brockton or Taunton to have a local sports celebrity come in and like want to know about them, want to shoot the basketball around with them, or honestly even come make some art. Matt came and made some Play-Doh sculptures with our really young kids. And so it is about, I think, just creating those opportunities where communication skills are developed, accountability to other people. There's so much need to develop those soft skills in our kids today, and thinking about what we need in the workforce. It's great to, we need people who are technologically efficient and whatever, Excel wizards and all kinds of things that they can do too. But there are just a lot of those people interpersonal skills that I think you get to practice less and less in the structure of school today. And so having a Boys and Girls Club, which still has a lot of structured programs, but a lot of just flexibility to like try stuff and fail at stuff sometimes too. And it doesn't really matter, right? It's about exploration and learning and less about some of those outcomes. And I think that is a big part of what we do.
Yeah, you touched on it there at the end, that there is structure and that's provided, and I think that's an important thing. But the exploration factor and all the different things that kids can sort of dip their toes into, I constantly draw back to experiences in team settings, and think of the parallels here at at NPACE and sort of the work and the colleagues that we have, and how that relates to being in a fraternity back in college and being on teams back in high school and middle school. And is it the same? Certainly not, but are there parallels and things that are like, oh, this is something that I've seen before in sort of a different setting. That's to know that that's happening for the kids there is great. And you touched on the relationship that you have with the Patriots, and we talk about the record and everything going on there now, but I think Mac Jones and all the players who make themselves available deserve a ton of credit to be able to come in and dedicate their time and resources to the kids is fantastic. And so kudos to them for making that an initiative. The last thing that I wanted to touch on is, how can folks that are interested in getting involved with the club, either on a volunteer basis or on a fundraising basis, what are the things that they can do to get involved?
Absolutely, that's great. And there are so many ways, I think, to get involved, whether it's as a member with your own child or as a community member. So for for someone who's learning more about the club and says, hey, that sounds like a great place, I want my kid to get connected, it's as easy as reaching out to our Brockton or Taunton clubhouse. We've got our website, bgcmetrosouth.org, that has phone numbers and all of that. To become a member, our annual membership fee is a $35 a year membership fee. Kids can come every single day after school, 2 to 8 o'clock at night, for that $35 fee. And if it's ever a financial barrier for someone to be able to come, the fees really, it's fairly inconsequential. We find ways to make that work. Access is really important to us. So we provide a lot of services for $35 a year. So that's why fundraising and community support is really important to us. So there's a lot of ways to do that. Obviously, it's the holiday season coming up for us. There's Giving Tuesday, which folks may be aware of, that is coming up on November 28th. There's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then on Giving Tuesday, you're supposed to give back and do something that's less about consumerism and more about helping. So we've got a Giving Tuesday campaign going on. There's information about it on our website and all of our social media accounts. And folks can make even a $35 donation and say, hey, that covers the cost of a kid coming, right? And I think that feels like a really good first step for a lot of folks. But if folks are also interested in giving of their time, we have lots of opportunities for volunteers who want to come in and say, hey, I'd love to mentor. I'd love to be a coach or a referee for any of these these games that go on in the club that we talked about, for homework help tutors. Sometimes folks want to organize a holiday toy drive in their office, right? There's lots of different ways to do that on an individual and a group level. And so I would be the best person probably to talk to about any sort of potential volunteer opportunity, whether that's as an individual or as a group, and kind of figure out what someone's goals for impact and giving back might be, and then kind of go over the menu of ways to get involved. But I would say for people who want to help, whether it's our club or the local club in their community, reach out. They will be happy to have you. They can absolutely find a way to leverage your time, your talents, whatever you have to give. And even just being a word of mouth, right? We know people in our lives who are like, I could use some extra help supporting my kid. Where do I go? Well, have you thought about your local Boys and Girls Club? They have a lot of things going on there. It's really affordable and accessible. They really, wrap their arms around your kids and figure out like, what do they need to be successful? So just, make that call or make that connection for somebody and get them involved in a club.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point and hope takeaway for our nurse practitioner audience that's tuning into this episode is that most of our folks are working in adult and family primary care, and so you are the folks that are interacting with families and their children when they come in to visit. And as providers, you certainly are able to get a gauge on how things may be going on in their home life. If there are some things that are going on where the Boys and Girls Club might be something that you bring up in your patient provider setting, and let folks know that if there's a need for structure, if there's a need for personal development, nutrition and wellness, so on and so forth, that bringing up the Boys and Girls Club in those patient provider settings and referring parents to learn more about that is something that I think will go a long way.
I couldn't agree
and that
more.
it's a resource, for providers to be able to speak to. So what we'll also do is Monica talked about reaching out and getting involved. So we'll put your email address in the podcast description and let folks know if they have interest in reaching out, that's where they can find you. And certainly if you're not in the Metro South area, we can also point you in the right direction in terms of where you can learn more about the local club in your area. So Monica, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us today and educating our audience more about the Boys and Girls Club and all of the fantastic offerings and resources that you have. For our audience that's tuned in today, we can't thank you enough for doing so. We want to just remind you to please rate, subscribe, and leave a comment if you enjoyed the podcast. We also have several other episodes that are out there. Please feel free to listen. We do have a few episodes that also contain continuing education credit for listening. So go ahead and learn more at learn.npace.org/podcast. You can find all the episodes there, as well as on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And this will wrap up our podcast episode today. Keep an eye on npace.org and NPACE social media channels for updates on when the next episode will become available in all things NPACE. We hope everybody has a great day. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate it.